Hello, disruptors and viewers from around the globe. We are so happy that you have tuned into Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr. Alisa Whyte, your number one mindset disruptor. You are tuned into a podcast that is a top 1% podcast where we aim to help you shift from limiting belief to success in your life, your business, relationships, and your career. Tune in as we help you unlock the mindset that is key to your success. Hello, disruptors. We are back for part 2 of Dr. Eric Recker's episode that has been so phenomenal. Let me remind you of our phenomenal guest who has put down so many gems in the first episode of Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr. Eric. It's been powerful. And this one, we're talking about one of his specialty topic, and he has an amazing gift for you. So listen all the way to the end. And of course, his website is coming up, but let me remind you a little bit about Dr. Recker. Dr. Eric has spent the first half of his life doing what he thought he had to do, putting his nose down and enduring the grind, but it was never quite enough. And if you missed the first episode, go back and understand why. Through experiences with the triathlon, mountain climbing, owning a dental practice with a team of 20, becoming a pilot, and extensive travel, he's learned that what he was searching for wasn't at the top of the mountain, he told us in the first episode. And so in this second half of his life, he is committed to helping people learn to live in the present, in their own lives, and find a life of fulfillment, not just by accomplishments, but through his coaching and speaking and writing and working to help people shift from burnout to fulfilled. He teaches, and I want you to write in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, win the now. Dr. Eric and his wife, Amy, gorgeous Amy, and their 2 kids probably live in a small town here in the USA in Ohio. So Dr. Eric, we welcome you back to the podcast for part 2. We're talking thriving through burnout. And so I just want you to go ahead and greet us for a bit, and let's dive into this wonderful segment that we have with you.
Well, Alisa, I'm super excited. We had so much fun on the first one, and I have no reason to think it's going to be any less amazing this time around. Let's do it.
It definitely isn't. So the question I have for you, because you talked to us, you shared your journey with bullying, and I got a little vulnerable with you guys with some parts of my story that most of you may not have heard. But we're at the point now where we've figured out kind of what we want to do. And so people get stuck and they get burnout regardless. And we talked a little bit about this, but this episode is directly based on your work and how you help individuals overcome. So with the common challenge of burnout, you faced it too, right? What was your turning point, and how do you now assist individuals with overcoming burnout?
Yeah, I think, burnout is this term that's out there. It's kind of this buzzword. And I actually had somebody bring this up to me the other day. It's like, I don't know if people actually know what burnout is. And I thought, well, that's interesting to me because I just knew I had it. And so for somebody who's not really sure if they're burned out or not, one of the things that I like to say, if you're not really sure, is how do you see your life? Do you find yourself getting excited about life, or does it just feel like a grind? Do you feel like your life is full of color and vibrancy, or is it more like one of my family's favorite movies of all time, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty? And I always talk about that movie because it's have you seen that movie?
No. But I'm going to now. I'm writing it down because it sounds like something we should see. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Yes.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So Walter, who is Ben Stiller in this movie, lives a boring existence. He works for Life magazine, and which is ironically this really colorful publication, but it's getting to the point where Life magazine is going to be closed down. And Walter's life, the cinematography in this movie is so amazing, but everything is gray at the beginning. There's really muted colors and there's not a lot of excitement. So to me, that is a perfect way to describe burnout. So you can say things like flat affect. You just kind of feel ugh, or the
Yeah.
word meh, meh. I use that
Mm.
word to describe it. It's like I'm just in the grind. I'm just
Yeah.
in the day to day. I wake up and the alarm goes off. I wake up, I do this, I do that. I come home, I zone out. I constantly
Mm.
find myself trying to escape my life,
Mm.
finding ways to escape, always trying to get into your phone, always trying to do things to get away from your own reality. All those things are symptoms of burnout.
Wow.
And, we could get into the difference between burned out and bored and all that stuff, but let's just say that for now. That's kind of what burnout was. And
Mm-hmm.
burnout can get really bad. So I was
Yes.
so burned out, but some people face their burnout by pulling back.
Mm.
I faced my burnout by putting the pedal down even more. So I had all of these things that I was committed to. I just
Yeah.
kept more and more and more. Well, my
Mhm.
plate was so full. I had so many things going on that my stress level was just high all the time, all the
Man.
time. And my head was spinning with all the things that I had to do. And so that's what really got me out of the present moment, because my head was all over the place all the
Wow.
time. And when you never give your mind a chance to rest, you start to deal with things potentially like chest pain, like tightness in your chest because of the level of anxiety and stress.
Yes.
Constantly feeling anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Have things like heart palpitations sometimes.
Mm.
As it continues to get farther, you can have things like panic attacks. And
Yes.
I am not a psychiatrist. I am not an MD. So I'm not going to say that they only happen here, only happen there. But I know
These are common.
my rock bottom burnout, one of my rock bottom burnout moments was I was about 30 minutes behind.
Mm.
And I was the only dentist in my practice that day. I had 5 hygienists that were waiting for me to check them, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was redlining constantly in this phase of life. And our
Mm-hmm.
server crashed. And when a server crashed in our office, we could do nothing. We're so heavily computer reliant, and so
Yes.
I went downstairs to the server room because I was also the IT person in our office. Which is pretty common in a dental office.
Yeah.
You have a dedicated IT person. So there I am in the server room. And as I'm walking down the stairs to where our server room is, I could just really feel the world closing in. I could just feel there was absolutely no way out. And I found myself on the floor in my server room, crying, paralyzed, because I could not get up and I could not face life. I couldn't get the server to work. I couldn't, just struggling. And that was a moment, and panic attacks are different for everybody, but I had no choice. I literally had no choice. I had to get up. I had to find a way to get up and start to rationally think. I mean, I'm fortunate I didn't have a heart attack in that moment.
Yeah.
I can imagine my blood pressure, all of that kind of stuff. But I had to get up because I had all those people that were depending on me. And this was 9:00 in the morning.
Wow.
I had a lot of real estate I had to cover before I even got to lunch.
Yes.
And so this was something, then this was not the only time it happened, but I didn't know what to do about it. This was before I knew the whole lean into what you love about your job and all of those different things. I just felt like this is what happened when you're in this level of responsibility in a job.
We think it's normal. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was awful.
Yeah. So my goodness. And I hope this is a thing, especially if I may say, from some research that I've read and reports that are out there, statistics, men suffer from burnout, especially anyone who's leading a team, have a family, all the fronts. And it's something that you all deal with and you don't talk about. And women, because we are chatty catties and we got a girlfriend and we can be gossipy at times, or we're just so much more, we're trained to just talk. Men are, it's like strength is in you manning up, right? As a man, when you hit that moment, like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? I heard you say, I knew I had to get up, but was there any thought about you and, well, I matter, and if I'm this much of a basket case, sort of, I'm in this state, I really can't do anything, or you just knew you had to keep going? Like, what's that mindset like in that moment? Because someone's listening and they're there.
Yeah. I just kept, at that point in my life, I just kept putting a Band-Aid on it. I just did. So I was crying out to God in that server room saying, I cannot do this anymore. I can't work at this pace. I can't do all this. I can't be everything to everyone. I can't continue to do it. But what happened is I had to get back up because I couldn't just stay there the rest of the day. The office couldn't function without me. Now I look back on it and yeah, you know what? I could have just said, we're done for the day.
Right.
We got to reschedule patients. We got to do all that. But that wasn't in my vocabulary at that time.
Right. You just knew. And so would you say, Dr. Recker, that one of the things is building so many wonderful, beautiful things in the world, but building it so solidly around us and not really preparing ourselves, being in a mindset of like, I can possibly get burnout, or if I'm not there, I still want everything to function. Would you say that we lack that sometimes as humans?
Yeah, well, one thing we do is we put way too much importance on ourselves. Way too much importance on myself. I thought the entire world depended on me in that moment. Yes. And here's the thing, especially now that I'm a pilot, I love, this is one of the things, I like to get up in the air because it gives me a different perspective on the world.
Oh my God.
The plane that I fly anywhere from 2,000 to about 10,000 feet. So I'm not like the big commercial planes, right. But I really enjoy that because what I see is when I'm flying around, I can see my office and I'm like, I care about that dot a whole lot. And I see my house and I care about that dot a whole lot, and my parents' house and stuff like that. There's a lot more dots. You're not the most important thing in the world. And God understands how all the dots work together. Our job is to do the best we can with our dots that matter. And then God connects it all. So in burnout, it was just, I was putting way too much importance on myself. I was saying that this place cannot function without me. BS. It's not true.
Come on.
And another thing, and we really have to work hard on this with some of my coaching clients. And at this retreat that I led a couple weeks ago, you can't do everything to everyone.
Come on.
You cannot. And actually learning that probably saved my life, because I was going to have heart complications, major heart complications at some point. I was going to have chronic stress-related illnesses at some point, no matter how healthy I was running and exercising and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter. I realized one day that I can't be everything to everyone, and trying to do that will lead to burnout faster than anything.
Burnout and ultimately take our lives. Listen, guys, I don't know if you caught this, because I know a lot of us, I love that Dr. Recker broke down some of the symptoms that you might be just thinking, oh, I'm so tired. I'm fatigued. Oh, do I have to go to work? Meh. Family dinner. Meh. Everything is meh. If you're even doing that, you might be burnt. You might be suffering from a burnout, and you're going to have to talk with a coach such as Dr. Recker or myself, or even a therapist. If that's, you start somewhere, reach out and talk to someone that is in the professional, I would say, has the professional view of where you could be at, and they'll listen to you. Dr. Recker will even listen to you. And because he's an expert and he knows how to get you from burnout to thriving, that's probably your best bet. I can't really recommend anybody right now except for him on this one, because I don't know anyone that has journeyed it and is trained and certified professional to do it. So I'm going to say reach out to him. But if you don't find him, or you just don't find someone, because this is serious. I shared in the last episode that I said heart attack, but I suffered the onset of a heart attack, was hospitalized for a week because my heart wouldn't stop, right? And I had no damages or injury to my heart, but everything else in my body was shutting down. I fell behind my desk. My staff found me behind my desk, okay? So that's when I was already having chest pains and arm pains. Did not know that those are the onset of a heart attack. Didn't realize. Coughing, a dry cough with no mucus or nothing, I thought I just had allergies. Nope. It was also a sign of the onset of a heart attack. Swelling in my joints, in my hands, puffy, retaining a bunch of water. Those were the onset of a heart attack. That came from the burnout, guys. Which my body was saying, check engine for a long time. And I just kept going, getting up and serving those people. Dr. Recker says there are a lot of dots in the life, and you can't think that. Let me tell you something. Have you ever seen anyone die at your workplace or in anyone's work situation and they did not find a replacement for you? They literally have to post that job. HR they have days, depending on your position, to post that opening. And let's just say Dr. Recker did not get up and pivot from being burnt out. If he had passed, it would have been awful for his wife and kids, but that dental practice more than likely would have been bought out by someone, and that practice would have gone on. Sadly, they would have missed him, but it would have gone on. And so I want us to walk away from this segment knowing that life will go on without you. And so for me, one of my things, Dr. Recker, and I'd love to hear what you think about this. Everything that I do, I remember people asking me, why do you train so many of your staff on all the stuff you do? I'm like, because I'm not going to work here forever, first of all. I have a plan to leave, but this is something I have been a part of, and it will be great with or without me. And so I'm going to give everything I have to make sure that if I win the lottery tomorrow, this place will go on and I could come by and visit, and it's flourishing because I've invested, number one. And number two, the people that you love, if you truly love them and you love serving them, you will empower them to lead themselves. What do you think about that, Dr. Recker?
Oh, man. You know, we really should all try to work ourselves out of a job. It's not the typical mentality that we have. The mentality is we got to hold it close to our chest. You know, we got to do that. But the reality was that I did not have a plan B if something happened to me for a lot of years. I had a life insurance policy to help my wife, but I didn't really have a plan B for the office. Now I have that in place. I have a partner. And not only so that if something happens to me, the office can continue to run, because that was really selfish for me that I never had a backup plan. Because if something happened to me, then those people's jobs were at risk. You know, eventually somebody would have picked it up, but those people's jobs were at risk. We were exposed. So having a partner and having us be pretty calibrated on how we do things, if something happens to him or something happens to me, then we don't want that to happen, but we have procedures in place to make sure everything's going to be okay. We're not as important as we think we are. And that's actually a good thing. That's actually a good thing, because if we go to sleep at night, always with the burden that we have to be everything to everyone and everything depends on us.
Yes.
Good luck.
We're not even sleeping because we're trying to do it all before we even wake. We're planning it and plotting it. And so it's one of the words that you just said, Dr. Recker, what did you just say? You said, it just slipped to my mind. You said that we cannot be everything to everyone. I say it all the time, but that's just such a safe, warm place to be when you really come to not just saying that, but understanding that Then when you're in when you set boundaries and you're saying no, I did an entire episode on the art of saying no. It's really setting boundaries and at times and just knowing what your limitations are, because believe it or not, you're not omnipresent, you're not omnipotent. So you're gonna have to have these limitations, and so be realistic about those and plan ahead, because the everything, even if you're a leader, even if you're, there's you in the middle of all that you do, and you have to first pour into yourself and then pour from that place. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after a word from our sponsors as we talk with Dr. Recker about thriving beyond burnout. We'll be right back. And we are back, disruptors, and we're talking here with Dr. Eric Recker. And so, Dr. Recker, what is a principle that you teach particularly that's been impactful for you and those individuals that you work for, your coaching, and even when you're doing your keynotes and addresses to individuals and corporations? What is the key principles that you teach in thriving beyond burnout?
Yeah, so one of the things, and we talked about this in the first episode, but the concept of living in the present moment, just the concept of win the now, it's vitally important that we show up in the moments of our lives. A lot of burnout, when we're gray, when things aren't working out the way we had hoped to, we find ourselves in the past or the future. We miss the moment. So coming back to the moment, and then people say, okay, that's great, but how do you do it? Well, I have a recentering phrase that I have when I notice that I'm drifting, which still happens to me a lot. So what I say, sometimes I have to just say, I am here, right here, right now.
I am here right now, right here, right now. I am taking notes because I'm going to borrow that for myself too.
So that's been a huge one. Another one is around our phones. Our phones pull us out of the moment, but only because we let them. Phones are not inherently bad. And when the older generation says, the generation's always on their phone, I look at them and say, you would have done the same darn thing if you had the phone.
Absolutely.
So I like to have boundaries. I like to have little speed bumps to make it so I don't just get on my phone. So I am asking myself, why am I picking this up? I just ask that one question, why am I picking this up? And if it's just to do my normal routine, we all have a phone routine. You pick it up and you check your email, you check the weather, you check all your social medias, you check maybe a news site, whatever your routine is. And if your routine takes long enough, when you get to the end of it, you go back and you start your routine again. Yes. So we in this thing, we need to know that what our routine is, and just ask, why am I picking up the phone? There's nothing bad about phones. It's just what we do with them that is bad. We allow them to control our lives. So those are a couple principles. I actually have on my website as well. It's just 5 principles of Win the Now. And that's something that's really new that's on there, that you can find that under, I believe it's under the coaching tab.
Yes, it is. I'm going to download mine after the episode because I have to have it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
So those are a couple of things that I would say are really, really important. And then just examining that everything to everyone. We all do it in different things, and just knowing that it's a lie, and 2, what can we do to try to dismantle that and then not feel like the weight of the entire world is on our shoulders and that we're the most important person in the world.
Absolutely. And so you also in your work, you talk about creating balance and setting those boundaries, which you kind of went over a little bit. How do people really create that professional, personal balance? You know, the word work-life balance is one of the biggest buzz phrases of all time. And I tend to veer to the end of like, balance would look different at different times in your life based on what your particular goals are and what phase and chapter of your life in. How do you what do you tell your clients that are seeking that personal, professional balance in their life? What does that look like?
So it looks completely different for everybody. Some people can have a life that feels balanced to them and their family, because that's who it matters for. It matters for you and matters for your family. Some people can do that with spending a disproportionate amount of time at work and work-related activities, but when they're with their family, they're really with their family.
Yes.
So that looks balanced for them. Other people, it looks different. So we actually have an exercise that I like to go through with my clients where we plot out, how much energy and time am I spending with all of these different areas of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much time and energy do I want to be spending in all of those in those areas? And once we know those differences, then we can start to customize some strategies for, how do I not worry so much about my career, but pay a little bit more attention to relationships?
Right.
So I think first we have to know where we're at to know what's out of balance. I can't just give you, Alisa, I just can't give you here's the equation, because you're a high achiever. And that looks different from someone who's very content, and nothing wrong with this, but someone who wants to punch a clock for a 9 to 5.
Yep.
Both things are awesome in it, but it's how do we find contentment in that?
Exactly. And going back to our first episode about fulfillment, right? What fulfills you? So for me, I know that I've had family members and some friends comment about my life. For example, we're recording this podcast on a Sunday, and I'm like, but this is what brings me fulfillment, right? I'm a single woman with no children. I haven't had any. I'm not going to have them. Not because I choose to, but that's how it's set up for me. But my point is, I remember saying a few years ago when I completely had to save my life, give up the process of going through getting pregnant and having a child, where I said to a family member that, you think I work too much, but you don't understand how fulfilling this is to me. I'm not going to be able to give birth to children, but I get to give birth to possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
while you're catering to your husband, your kids, or whatever you're doing, that's a whole, maybe 6-7 hours of your day trying to figure out all these games and who needs what. And I have all that extra time on my hand because I'm not doing that. Never mind, I would desire to at some point. It didn't work that way for me. So I have these extra 7 hours. And this is how I find that instead of sitting there, I could have sat there and felt sorry for myself and mourned forever the loss of motherhood or marriage and all those things. No, I let myself heal. I did mourn it. I did feel sad. And there were times I was going at full fledged and still mourning and unwrapping my mindset behind it not happening for me. But understanding that balance for me looks like being fulfilled in my life's journey. So when people say, what do you do for fun? Everything. This podcast is the fun of the funs. Even when I am recording by myself, that's what someone said. It's like having a conversation with you, because I'm having fun. I laugh at the things I say. I never know. I literally have fun. And there's times I'm home alone, not working, not reading, not doing anything, but I'm in here rocking out and I'm dancing and I'm singing, or I'm, you never know. I could be cooking and do something really awkward, like put sugar instead of salt, and it's a whole laugh for me. So I find that when we talk about professional and personal balance, I agree with you, Dr. Recker. It's that fulfillment and what that really looks like for you. What are your goals? And sometimes I understand that some people need a coach like yourself or I to sit there and prioritize, because they have the goal to spend more time with family. They have the goal to make 100K that year or whatever that is, but they don't know how to make a schedule. Some of us, I feel like we were born innately with those gifts, and some of us aren't, and that's okay. That's what we're here for, to help you find your zing, find your zest and your sweet spot in your life, because it's not a one size fit all. I have to agree, Dr. Recker, it's not.
Yes, you are so correct. I agree with all of that for sure.
He says, oh, yeah, I give birth to possibilities. And so with that, even with motherhood, it's looking at the children and youth that God just sends across my life from all over the world. They may have a mother, but the role that I play in their life as the voice of reason, decision making, planning, organizing, becoming focused and understanding how to set themselves up with their purpose and then pivot when that changes. That's my experience of being a mother to those youth and young children at one point in my life. So it's like, I didn't get robbed. I probably just have it a little bit easier because I get to come home and not be responsible for everyone. And so I had to look at the positives of my given journey, right? Because I could sit here and moan like I wanted to have kids. It's like I'm the most loving parent they could be, but never became one. And look at the negatives like we talk about in the first episode. Like you have to look at the wins. And so when you look for them, they're everywhere, and you can bring that to your present and fuel up like a gas tank that propels you to the future. And that, Dr. Recker, is what Win the Now is all about. And I love it.
You got it. You got it. And I think one of the things, people feel like they have to explain themselves to somebody else. Like the impact that you're going to be able to have on the world, that you are having on the world with what you're doing now, yes. You're in your sweet spot. And that's amazing. Like people ask me all the time, why aren't you just staying a dentist? Why aren't you just doing that? Why all of this other stuff? And I said, if you have a message in you that is so big that you know on your deathbed, you are going to feel like crap if you haven't gotten that message out, then would you not shout it from the rooftops and do everything you possibly can? And you know what? I say that, and some people are like, huh? Because you don't get it. But to me, that is not a regret I'm going to have. I'm finding a way to do some of each, which is awesome.
Yes. And I think a lot of times that is what separates the 1%. And I didn't say the 1% meaning the millionaires and billionaires in the world, but us too, is the ability to sit there and say, what would make me happy? What would make me feel fulfilled? What would make me feel successful? And I remember talking about sexual discipline in my journey, and a lot of people like, what? Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm able to sit and think, if I did that, went there, did this, I already can see all the results that are going to come. Like there are living, breathing examples everywhere. So then I just don't do it. And so what will bring me results that I want? If I do that and that and that, it will give me results. So that's what I do, right? And that goes for everything. So with Dr. Recker saying, I can look at the end of my life and I know if I keep running this dentistry practice, and no matter how much money I make and how many wonderful crooked teeth I fix, that's going to be the most fulfilling thing in my life. So I'm going to get up and do something that puts me on the path. And for those who are listening, Dr. Recker, what would you say before we take a break when it comes to finding your sweet spot? I love it because sometimes we say purpose and individuals get completely purpose. That means I'm going to have to switch my career. That means I'm probably going to have to leave the man I'm with or whatever. But when it comes, let's go with sweet spot for those who don't want to hear purpose, right? When it comes to finding your sweet spot and executing a plan to live it and be it and do it, what would you say would be the secret thing to just doing that?
We got to get quiet a little bit. We have to get quiet. We're not going to find the life that we want to live amidst all the noise. So I really don't know how we do it. I know people are probably going to get grumpy about this, but I don't know how we do it without quiet. The retreat that I led a couple of weeks ago, we were in Utah in Park City, and it was just gorgeous. We were in this VRBO, and everybody was overlooking the ski runs, and it was snowing, and all of that kind of stuff is just gorgeous. And these are busy people that I was leading through this, and we had intentional quiet time. So I would do some teaching, and then there would be 10 minutes of quiet, 20 minutes of journaling, and then 10 more minutes of quiet, because I wanted us to work on that habit. Because if we don't find times for our brains to slow down and idle, good luck. That's what they were meant to do. If we look back in history, it wasn't very long ago that we didn't have TVs, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have this. Our brains are not designed to live at the pace that we scroll on social media. They're just not. And if we do that and it's part of our life, it's fine. We have to find time to be quiet, to figure out what it is we really want in life.
Absolutely. And it's simple as sitting with yourself in quiet. Like everything Dr. Recker just says is exactly what I teach, what I talk about. You have to be, and he said the key words he said was intentional about it, because we have all the things and they're not going anywhere. They're making more. I think they said there's going to be hologramic phone screens or holographic or whatever they're calling it, phone screens. And we've got there's plenty of it and it's not going anywhere. We're just going to keep having more. So if you're not intentional about yourself and where you want to go, it's not going to happen. Quiet the mind. So yourself, and I would say God, can speak to you and get directions and take notes. When you're done, take notes and make a plan, because you still do have free will. You get downloaded information. You're listening to this episode and you're nodding your head. You're like, oh my gosh, he's right. Dr. Recker's right. Oh my gosh, I need to do this. And then you listen to the podcast, you get motivated and fired, but you do nothing. The next thing we would add to that is now make a plan and work the plan. If you can't hold yourself accountable, or you're surrounded by people that won't, that's where Dr. Recker and I come in. That's where you say, help me. And we do free coachings, a free discovery call with, I know I do. Dr. Recker, do you do that as well?
I do.
Yeah, you just have to talk to him directly and see if what you're looking for. I'm pretty sure it will. If it comes to this is what his expertise is helping you thrive from burnout to or loss. And if you don't know, and coming back to the now, because everything about what you're hoping to achieve in life is in the now and empowered by what you're willing to do right now. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors for a rapid fire round with Dr. Recker. Disruptors, viewers, listeners from around the world, we're winding down our second episode with the phenomenal Dr. Recker. He just mentioned a retreat that I know I have to be at. I think he's going to have one later this year. So before we do this rapid fire one, can you tell us a little bit more about your retreat and how often you do that, Dr. Recker?
Yeah, so this was the first one. It was amazing. A company hired me to do this, but we call it the Win the Now Gathering. Oh. And so I'm super excited about it. I'm working on getting one put together for September in Utah, and then I'm also doing a local one in April in Iowa to celebrate the launch of my new book that's actually coming out. So I'm super excited about that. There's going to be information about that on my website. Yes. And so I'm super excited about it. I want to provide a place where people can take a little pause from where they're at. It's not a stuffy corporate retreat like some of the things that we see that people go on, but this is a chance to get real, a chance to get vulnerable. And everybody who was at the retreat walked away with 3 solid action steps to do and someone to keep them accountable for it. So it was just so good. I can't wait for the next one.
Awesome. And I am planning that you will share, and I will get to be a part of one of those in the future. I'm excited to be able to meet and connect with you and your message and your determination to just win the now and help others do that. So congratulations on your new book. We do have Dr. Recker's website. It's www.ericrecker.com. For those who are listening to us, go there. And then just in a few minutes, we'll tell you about a wonderful free gift that he's brought for all of our podcast listeners and viewers. So Dr. Recker, are you ready to play a game with me?
Let's do it. I'm excited. I love a game.
So let's talk about this. What's your favorite mountain that you've climbed?
Mount Kilimanjaro.
Really?
Yep.
Whoa! Oh my gosh, you're my hero. And what's the most impactful book you've ever read or you've read recently?
Oh boy. I would say Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Oh, yes. I've read it 3 times in the last year. It is
Yep.
one that I have a lot to do. Listen, I had to break that up in pieces, definitely. What's one mantra that keeps you grounded? And I did have one written down, but let's see if it's the same.
Oh boy. The win the now thing is just so huge. If I spend the rest of my life trying to figure out how to live in the present moment, that's going to be a big one. But if you don't know why you're climbing the mountain, you won't find the answer at the top. I got to go with that one.
Ooh, yes, that was one of my favorites of today as well. All right. And can you tell us one memorable coaching success story that you've had so far?
Yeah, so I coached someone who is in healthcare like myself, and this person was so driven by the numbers, was so driven by the schedule, so driven by more. And we just had to pause and say, hey, is this sustainable? Well, no, it's not sustainable. That's why I hired you. And so we just broke things down and got into that point. What is it that you love about your job? How can we do more of that? And how can we make it less about the numbers? Numbers are important. But if you do all the other right things, the numbers are going to fall in line. So we took the focus off the numbers and more on the joy of the job and delivering a great service and all of that. And it was completely life-changing. So I always love that story, and it's so fun to be a part of that.
I love it. I've got another question for you. What was one moment you had to flip the script of your mindset to pivot? And I think we kind of have some of those, but you flip the script of how you think to get through a moment or a big change in your life.
Yeah, so I'm someone who is quick to catastrophize. I go negative really, really, really easy. I think a lot of us do that. But I have to, one of the most common things I do is when I used to always be in a class and I would say that would never work for me. That would never work for me. Well, I have changed it to how could that work for me? So people are saying this whole win the now thing, that could never work for me. I would challenge you to instead say, okay, how can I incorporate this into my life? So that's a huge flip the script for me.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And then the next question I have for you, what do you define success to be for you?
Yeah, success for me right now is about impact. Success is about making a difference in people's lives. Being able to get in front of audiences and share the message, being able to do a workshop where light bulbs come on, being able to get testimonials from people who say their life has been changed. So success is about impact, trying to be in the sweet spot where God wants me to be.
Oh, I love that. Ooh, I love it. I'm always, that's one of my favorite questions to ask everyone. And last but not least, we're starting a new thing on the podcast where every guest gets to leave a question for the next guest after their episode. And we never know who it's going to be. What would be one of those questions that you would want to hear someone answer when it comes to mastering your mindset?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, I think just the question, how do you approach the mountains in your life?
Ooh.
I think that's a really important one. We started the retreat off by having everybody name a personal and professional mountain that they had in their life.
Oh my goodness.
How do you approach the mountains in your life?
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, and we got it. Let's see who gets to answer that question. Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Oh my goodness, Dr. Recker, it has been such an amazing time with you. And so we have, Dr. Recker did come bearing gifts. He's not going to leave you hanging. We want to remind you that you can connect with him on www.ericrecker.com. But today, Dr. Recker, can you tell us about the free gift that you have brought our viewers and our listeners from around the world?
Yeah, so as you've heard me say, I'm passionate about sharing my journey. I have a burnout journey, and I would have loved to have some help earlier on in that journey. So, you do the things that you want to have done in the world. So I created this resource. It is a series of 5 emails that you will get about burnout and about being able to raise your hand and say, you know what, I think I'm facing this, but not having to say it to anybody else. So I really like this resource. I put a lot of my heart and soul into it, and I want to give it away because I want people to be able to benefit from it.
Yes, and for those who are watching, you have the QR code coming up, and the link is also in the description wherever you're watching or listening to this for the 5 days of Knock Back Burnout. The 5-part email series that Dr. Recker has created himself to help you go to thrive from burnout to living your life and creating and winning in the now. So go to the link below or scan the QR code right here. And you can also explore Dr. Recker's website at www.ericrecker.com. It is a beautiful website. I love it. And then he's also have a new other freebie that he's prepared. Dr. Recker, what's that one? Is that the one that's the Win the Now?
Yeah, that's the 5 principles of Win the Now. So it's the 5 things that I use every day in my life to try to be in the present moment.
And that is absolutely important. So go to www.ericrecker.com. You can also follow our phenomenal guest, Dr. Recker, on Instagram at Doc Recker, just the @. Look him up. You'll also see his name, Eric Recker. And then also on LinkedIn, he's just goes as Eric Recker as well, and connect with him there as well. He's got a lot to offer the world. You'll be hearing and seeing him. I'm personally holding him close as one of my people in my network that I can continue to be empowered by and with, and do same with him. Dr. Recker, I'm going to step away from the scene and give you give us some closing words that you want the listeners and viewers to walk away with from you. If they didn't pay attention to the entire thing, you want them to remember this. The mic is yours.
It's easy to listen to an episode or 2 episodes like this and think that you have a mountain of things that you have to conquer. But I am a huge fan of small but significant steps. So of everything that you've learned today, what is one step that you can take to move forward? Maybe that's raising your hand. Maybe that's taking the courage to say, I need some help. That's a huge step. But whatever it is, think of what is one small but significant step that I can take to move my life forward or to live in the present moment.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, disruptors from around the world, you heard it here. This has been such a phenomenal journey. The time went by so quickly that we decided to do 2 full episodes for you. It's power packed, so listen to it over and over again. That's what podcasting is all about, so you can have on-demand content. Our podcast is set to help you shift from limiting beliefs to empowering new habits and ways of being and doing so you can be successful in your life. Dr. Recker, thank you for sharing your incredible journey, insights on Win the Now. Your story of resilience and transformation is just truly inspiring to me, and I know that our listeners thank you as well. Thank you all for tuning into Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr. Alisa, and today, Dr. Recker as well. The power to transform your mindset in your life is in your hands, and Dr. Recker has given you keys. Until next time, keep mastering your mindsets. And Dr. Recker, thank you. Love, light, peace, and blessings. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential, shatter limitations, and ignite success in your life, career, business, and relationships? Introducing Mindset Mastery Moments, the transformative podcast hosted by the #1 mindset disruptor, Dr. Alisa Whyte. It's not just a podcast, it's a movement dedicated to rewiring your mindset for limitless possibilities. Subscribe now and disrupt the status quo with Mindset Mastery Moments. Your daily dose of inspiration and empowerment is just a click away. Embrace the extraordinary and welcome to the Mindset Revolution.